He is shocking everyone. Coming into training camp, most of the attention was on Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins, but one player who is quietly turning heads is fifth-round rookie Chandler Rivers. Despite entering one of the deepest cornerback rooms in the NFL, Rivers is already making a name for himself and is looking like one of the most promising draft prospects for the Baltimore Ravens to be an underrated piece going into the 2026-2027 season. Now, we're going to break down why exactly the Baltimore Ravens drafted him, what makes him stand out completely, and why he could be one of the arguably biggest steals in the entire 2026-2027 NFL draft. But before we get into today's video, you guys are wanting to make sure to subscribe to Ravens Digest. 90% of you guys are unsubscribed. It is completely free. Who does not like free things? So hit that subscribe button. And we're providing Ravens videos and updates every single day. You guys are not going to want to miss out on what we're providing at all. Now, going into Duke and Chandler Rivers coming out of Duke, Chandler Rivers looked like one of the most exciting draft prospects in the entire NFL draft. Now, he was selected 162nd overall in the 5th round, and many analysts had him as a day 2 and early day 3 pick, making him one of Baltimore's best valued picks in the entire draft. The Ravens have already built one of the smartest secondaries and one of the most physical defensive back secondaries, and Rivers fits everything that Baltimore is looking for as a player as a whole. Now, Rivers has a high football IQ, has very good toughness and physicality, and production and experience in the ACC and in a collegiate role. Something that Eric DeCosta thinks that players who consistently can make plays on film tapes is exactly what Rivers did at Duke and exactly why the Baltimore Ravens believe that he could be one of the biggest pieces going into this upcoming season. Now, if we take a look at Chandler's stats specifically from his time at Duke, Chandler specifically had a very high tolerance in terms of being able to produce total tackles and solo tackles. He finished his entire Duke career with 223 total tackles, 139 solo tackles, 84 assisted tackles, 29 pass deflections with 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 7 interceptions, with 2 of those interceptions being brought back in pick-6 scenarios. Chandler Rivers was a very key contributor for the Duke roster as he played all 4 years and was a 52-game starter for Duke in his career. As we talked about, he also was named first team All-ACC and in third team AP All-American in 2024. He followed this up in 2025 with another All-ACC season, cementing himself as one of the highest pivotal picks and prospects in the entire ACC, and he played against NFL caliber receivers the entire week, pretty much on a week-to-week basis in the ACC with high-level receivers such as the Chris Bells and the Malachi Tonys going against these high-level players on a week-to-week basis. He was also the team captain at Duke and led the defense in multiple categories as a player. Now, Chandler Rivers, as we know, if you watch the tape, the production pretty much matches the eye test that you're looking for. He was not just making splash plays every once in a while. He was contributing at the highest level throughout his entire college career, and simply why he was one of the most underrated picks going into this upcoming season. Now, Chandler Rivers, why is he so good and why does he stand out from a corner perspective for the Baltimore Ravens? One of the biggest strengths with Chandler Rivers is his instincts. He processes route combinations that receivers put together very quickly, and he rarely looks lost in coverage when it comes to man and zone scenarios. He doesn't really panic when the ball is in the air, and he has excellent burst and closing speed on these underneath drag and other slant zip concepts. Physically, though, one of the things that stood out about Chandler Rivers was the fact that he was 5'10", 185 pounds, but he is also one of the biggest and best tackling corners in this entire draft class. One thing about Chandler Rivers is he is not afraid to fill in against the run, take on blocks in space, and finish tackles. This is something that the Baltimore Ravens really capitalize and look for when it comes to contributing from a corner perspective. This is one of the things that makes Nate Wiggins such a higher level piece for the Baltimore Ravens, and something of why the Baltimore Ravens are so high on what Chandler could provide them going into this upcoming season. Now, already in training camp, one thing that has been turning heads is the fact that he is competing every single day with these tough corners such as the Marlon Humphreys and the Nate Wiggins. This is arguably one of the deepest cornerback rooms in the entire NFL, and for a 5th-round receiver or cornerback to earn positive attention this early is something that is really good for his career. It is not only that coaches are not giving him opportunities because of where he's drafted, he has been personally earning these opportunities, and this is one of the best signs for a young player to gain trust within the organization to become that capitalizing face in the entire league. Now, one of the things about Chandler Rivers is that Baltimore does not need him to start immediately. This is one of the biggest advantages that he has going into this upcoming season, as he can learn from veterans and compete every single day against NFL receivers such as Zay Flowers and Jacoby Lane from a bigger physical perspective, for him to get accommodated with NFL receivers, their height, their weight, and also the trajectory of what they can bring on the football field. He can also play in multiple different positions, with him being able to play outside corner, nickel, and he should be a good piece in the special team game for Jesse Minter to use in multiple different levels. Now, if you are asking the question of why did Chandler Jones fall to the 5th round, Chandler Jones, from an NFL perspective, was very productive, but the biggest concern going into his career was the measurables from a scout perspective. He is around 5'10", doesn't really have elite length or top end speed, and some receivers and other notable pieces question whether he could consistently line up with bigger NFL receivers as a whole. But the Baltimore Ravens trust within the tape that we've seen from him, and also trust within the spectrum of what he can contribute from this higher standpoint. Now, if we look at Chandler Rivers specifically and his strengths and weaknesses coming from a draft profile and prior to the NFL draft, one of the things that Rivers was known for was excelling in zone coverage and being able to read the field, as well as his versatility, as we talked about, in zone and man situations with proper footwork and technique, pairing well with the flexibility of playing him in the nickel, slot, or these other positions. He also has a natural feel of where the football is going, and these instincts help create turnovers and pass breakups for him in coverage. His hip and ankle flexibility allow him to turn and carry receivers downfield, and he plays with a very aggressive mindset that allows him to trigger despite him being such a smaller corner. Now, going into the areas that he can improve on going into this upcoming season, some of the things that Chandler can improve on is him not being afraid to man with tight ends and receivers, but him also needing to work on his hands and his jumps at the catch point to disrupt these throws from quarterbacks. As well as this, he tends to be a touch late out of the gate with receivers who stack up on him taller and vertically, and his recovery speed lacks a tad. Lastly, while he doesn't avoid the run game, he could use this same mentality when it comes to him blowing downhill and being able to blow up screens in these scenarios to be a big piece towards creating space and having an impact on and off the ball in multiple scenarios. Now, if we look at Chandler Rivers and compare Chandler Rivers to already NFL pro comparisons, one of the biggest comparisons I have for him going into this upcoming season is Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson, during his time in Buffalo, was known for his instincts, his toughness, his versatility, and other than his elite size and traits, he's a pretty aggressive player and can play inside and outside the field. But if we are talking about his ceiling and who I believe he could benefit from and take a lot from his game to be a big piece for the Baltimore Ravens, look no further than Trent McDuffie. I believe Trent McDuffie is his ceiling due to his reputation of football IQ and his technique and anticipation. These are the exact same traits that Rivers was shown going into his college career at Duke, and it is a lofty ceiling, as we know, but Trent McDuffie is one of the best young corners in the NFL, and you could absolutely see the comparison between their size, their speed, and their IQ in terms of how they are framed on the NFL field. Now, going into the 2026-2027 season, what role could the Baltimore Ravens use Chandler in a consistent role? Realistically, he does not need to become the cornerback 1, and he doesn't need to become the cornerback 3. What Chandler needs to do is earn his role in these nickel dime packages and rotate on defensive snaps, because the Ravens play a lot of defensive backs on a play-to-play basis. Obviously, injuries can happen throughout a season, and if Rivers continues to stack up these practices and these good preseasons, his role could be expanded going into the season way more than people are expecting going into the 2026-2027 season. As we know, the Baltimore Ravens always find a player, and Chandler Rivers has this potential to be that player in 2026. As we know, his production at Duke was impeccable, and the instincts are pretty obvious if you watch his tape and his cornerback film, as the room is very deep going into this upcoming season. As we are still a long way from week 1, if he continued building throughout training camp and the opportunities that he is receiving throughout this current season, do not be surprised if Chandler Rivers can be one of the biggest steals from the entire quarterback room, and him playing alongside Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, to be one of the best cornerback rooms in the entire league. Let me know what you guys think about Chandler Rivers and if you believe he will quickly become one of the biggest training camp surprises going into this upcoming season. Don't forget to like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on the video as a whole, and if you believe his ceiling is way higher than people think. We'll see you on the next episode of Ravens Digest, and until then, Ravens flock, keep going.